This is a group project for BADM 7020, Dr. Young H. Chun, in the fall of 2012. Group members are Emily Coco, Dean Blanchard, and Jeff Johnson. Our topic is, who makes more money, male or female servers? Our study looks at two groups, male servers and female servers, and asks the question, who makes more money out of these two groups? This has been a hot topic for a long time, and we're going to give you some answers based on what we've found. In 2009, the United States Census Bureau published a report that said females earned about 19% less than their male counterparts. However, when you drill that down and you focus primarily on the hospitality industry, it found that females out-earned males by about 83.5%, and this was primarily due to tips. In the serving industry, there are a lot of questions that arise as to why people tip, how much will they tip, what factors affect the amount that they will leave, who tips more, who tips less. And all of these questions affect how much males and females make in the comparison. And now let's look at some factors that affect tips. In studies published by Lynn and Simmons, they suggest that tipping is predominantly affected by four different things: social expectations, server attractiveness, server friendliness, and customer mood. They also suggest that restaurant tips may be larger when the server's sex differs from the tipper's sex. So when a female is serving a male, the tips have a tendency to be higher. Males that serve other males are not typically tipped as well, and females that serve other females are not tipped as well either. When a female is serving a male, then the tips are on average higher. This also implies that male customers tip female servers much better. And since 81% of restaurant servers are females, female servers will receive larger tips on an average. So how do we collect our data? Well, based on the findings of Lynn and Simmons, we set out to prove that female servers earn more per hour than male servers, and that in tipped positions within the hospitality industry, the male-female income discrepancy does not apply. So we collected 103 hourly server earnings over a 90-day period from the following locations: the Baton Rouge location, Seguin, Gonzales, Millerville, Zachary, and Denham Springs locations of Chili's Grill and Bar, using a restaurant performance database. And through a random sample, we collected 10 hourly server earnings from each of the 6 restaurants to give us a sample population of 60 people, 40 females and 20 males. An average was taken from the 60 sample serving earnings to arrive at a benchmark of $13.27 per hour. This figure was then used to compare, test, and analyze the individual female and male hourly earnings. So what about our testing method and analysis? Well, based on the sample population data, we constructed several different tools to help us. We did a contingency table, pie charts, a histogram, probability table, a 95% confidence interval, the sample size needed to achieve plus or minus 2% margin of error, and some hypothesis testing. Now, the contingency tables depict the mean hourly server earnings by restaurant and sex with a total overall mean. Now, this was used as a benchmark in which the individual male and female earnings per hour were compared to in order to establish the number of males and females exceeding the mean. The sample proportions of the male and female totals were then established in the probabilities in tables 3 and 4. The histogram and the pie charts show graphical representation of the comparison earnings between males and females, and both the tables and charts clearly depict that females earn more per hour than males. Now let's look at some hard data. Look at table number 1. It shows the number of male and female servers, and it compares to the average. Look at females. 21 of the females in our study were above the average. 19 of the females were below the average, for a total of 40 in our sample N for females. As for the males, 8 of them were above the average, and 12 of them were below the average, for a total of our 20 N for males. On an overall total, 29 males and females were above the average, and 31 males and females were below the average. Now let's look at table number 2. Table number 2 shows the average earnings by restaurant as compared to males and females. You'll see that the females out-earned the males at the Baton Rouge location, in the Zachary location, but in the Millerville location, the males out-earned the females. In the Seguin location, the females out-earned the males. In the Gonzales location, the females out-earned the males. And in the Denham Springs location, the females out-earned the males, with an overall total females out-earning the males $13.58 to the males $12.97. Now let's look at a histogram chart. It clearly shows that females out-earned males. Females were almost at $13.60 an hour, while the males failed to even get to $13 an hour. Let's look at a couple of pie charts comparing males and females to the average. Figure 2 shows females compared to the average. You'll see that 19 females did not reach the average, while 21 females did reach the average. Figure 3, you'll see that 12 males did not reach the average, while only 8 males did reach the average. These two show that the females again out-earned the males as compared to the average. Once the initial data was analyzed, we conducted a 95% confidence interval, which we then used to indicate the reliability of the data estimate. And our results concluded that we are 95% certain that between 36.8% and 68.2% of female servers will earn more an hour than male servers. Since the probability was not as high as we expected, we then conducted a margin of error and hypothesis test to analyze the data. The 95% confidence interval for the population mean proportion of female servers earning more an hour than an average. Now with our two samples, we were able to construct tables 3 and 4. Table 3 is the probability table for females. You'll see that 21 of the females were above the average for a percent of 52.5. Those below the average were 19 with an average of 47.5. For the males, out of the 20, 8 were above the average, giving 40%, and 12 were below the average, giving 60%. And finally, our hypothesis testing. The final test of our data analysis was the hypothesis testing. We tested the null hypothesis that more than 50% of females earned more per hour than males, and the test concluded that the null hypothesis was in fact true. For our formula, we use the alternatives HO if the mean is greater than or equal to 0.5, and then conclude H1 if the mean is less than 0.5. Our decision rules stated that if Z star is greater than or equal to 1.645, then conclude HO. Otherwise, conclude H1. Once we tested the statistic of the Z star and the correct formula, the test conclusion stated that Z star is equal to 0.314, which is greater than or equal to 1.645. Therefore, our conclusion was HO. More than 50% of females earn more per hour than the population mean. Finally, in conclusion, our mission was to uncover the truth about male and female server earnings through the use of population sampling, data analysis, and statistical inferences. While we had an educated guess that female servers made more than male servers, a hypothesis is nothing without concrete backing. The results and analysis of our contingency table, confidence interval, and hypothesis test have given us the concrete backing to support our original hypothesis. So even though we proved that our original hypothesis was true, that females actually do earn more than males in the hospitality industry, we did not set out to find out why. We have a few hypotheses that could be tested in the future. Our first hypothesis is that males tip more to females, and since males do not cook, they eat out more than females, so more males are tipping. Our second hypothesis is that females are more persuasive, so their check averages and tips are higher. And the third hypothesis is there are more female server environments than male server environments, such as restaurants like Hooters or Twin Peaks and places like strip clubs. So females tend to work as servers more than males, and males tend to eat out more than females. Thus, males tip to females more than the other way around. Therefore, our hypothesis is that females earn more than males, but these are some that can be tested.